Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar titled Increasing Customer Lifetime Value for Software Subscription and SaaS. My name is Jennifer Carl, and I'm the Program Manager for the Software and Services Division at SIIA. I'm delighted to be joined today by Shannon McLeod, Conversion Optimization Strategist at Avangate. Avangate is a digital commerce provider that helps software and SaaS companies to sell their products and services via multiple channels, acquire customers across multiple touchpoints, increase customer and revenue retention, leverage smarter payment options, and to maximize sales conversion rates. Avangate's clients include Abby, Absolute, Bitdefender, FICO, HP Software, Kaspersky Lab, Telestream, and many more companies across the globe. Our presenter today, Shannon, is a digital marketer with 20 years of experience. She has She has grown revenues by boosting conversion rates by over 30% for several clients. Shannon has managed e-commerce, affiliate marketing, and CRO programs for global software companies, Absolute Software, ACD Systems, Nero, and AVG Technologies. For this webinar, she will be accompanied by Radu Ionescu, Senior Product Manager with Avangate, who's also been with the company for more than 5 years and who will be on standby for any platform-related questions that you might have. Before we jump in, if you're not familiar with SIIA, we are the only global association representing the software and digital content industries. We were founded in 1984 and currently have over 750 corporate members. As I said, I represent the Software and Services Division at SIIA, which is home to our ISV community. We also have a number of other divisions within SIIA: Education, Financial Services, Media and Content, as well as our Public Policy and IP Protection groups. All of our groups serve our members by providing business development and professional development opportunities. This slide represents the Software and Services Division, but a lot of what you see here also applies to the other divisions. This is just a snapshot of opportunities to get involved in SIIA activities and initiatives, from speaking opportunities, boards and committees, award programs, market research, and more. Although this is hard to see, this is just a snapshot of our 2017 calendar. Some of the dates are subject to change, but this gives you an idea of the in-person and some of the virtual events that we have planned for the year. As I mentioned, we are a membership organization. All memberships are corporate, allowing all of your employees to take advantage of the benefits SIIA has to offer you. If you're interested in learning more about SIIA and how to get involved, my contact details are there, along with our other team members. We'd be delighted to welcome you into our great network. Okay, now just a couple housekeeping reminders. This webinar is being recorded, and we will provide everyone with the slides and recording at the conclusion of today's event. All the phone lines are on mute. However, we do want to take all of your questions. Please use the chat box in the bottom left of the screen to ask your questions at any point throughout the presentation. We will be sure to answer all of the questions we have time for. If we do not get to your question for any reason, we will be sure to send you a response following the conclusion of today's webinar. This is an example of the digital commerce clients that Avangate provides to. And our speakers today, as I mentioned, Shannon, and on backup we have Radu Ionescu. Now for why we're here today, to discuss increasing customer lifetime value, I'd like to welcome Shannon McLeod from Avangate, who's going to take us through helpful tips and examples that can positively impact your business. Shannon, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Happy to be here. Thanks everybody for joining. I see some familiar names dialing in, so it's great to see all of our colleagues from the software and SaaS space as we talk about increasing customer lifetime value, specifically for software subscriptions and SaaS. So I'd like to start by talking about the evolution of the funnel, because as digital marketers, we've been solely focused on acquisition. And acquisition is still a key part for growing our revenue. But as more and more of us move to a subscription or a SaaS-based business model, the entire digital commerce lifecycle comes into play. So of course we have acquisition, but there's also trial activation, upsells and cross-sells, upgrades and renewals. And there's an opportunity to either convert or lose a customer at every phase of this customer lifecycle. And by maximizing and optimizing each phase is really the way to maximize our customer lifetime value over time. So what do we mean by some of these terms? Upgrades, cross-sells, upsells. Well, here's a real-life example of my cable bill. So don't laugh at me, I still have cable. But I called my cable provider, Shaw, and wanted to sign up for TV. So they sold me TV package for $43. Then they said, well, do you want the golf channel? Which of course I knew my husband wanted. So they upsold me the Sports One package. Then they asked me who I was using for internet. I was using a different internet provider. So they said, well, it's cheaper if you bundle with us. So they cross-sold me an internet package. Then they asked if I wanted fast internet, which of course I did. So they upgraded me to the advanced Wi-Fi modem for an extra $4.84 a month. And then they asked if I had a landline, and I was using a different vendor for that. So they upgraded me to the bundle where I would have TV, internet, and phone for $19 a month. Now after a couple months, we weren't really using our landline a lot, so I called in to cancel the landline. And instead of canceling, they downgraded me by saying, we'll give you $4 off, so instead of $19 a month, your landline will only cost $15 a month. And that prevented me from canceling the landline altogether. I just got it at a lower price. So you can see here that Shaw has done a great job of not only capturing all of my wallet share because I moved away from other service providers, but also they have maximized my customer lifetime value. There's a 339% increase from the original $43 for my TV to the total bundle that they sold me. And they're not the only vendor out there doing this. This is one of their big competitors called TELUS. And TELUS has really figured out how to maximize the ROI on their marketing spend. So here they're offering sign up for an Optic TV and get TELUS internet for 2 years. So I was curious about this, and they're offering a 49-inch Toshiba TV. So I looked up the price of a 49-inch Toshiba TV, and it's about $480. I'm sure they buy these in bulk and they get them for around $400 or something. So TELUS is saying if you sign up for 2 years at $96 a month, let's call it $100 a month to make the math easy, that's $2,400. So my customer lifetime value over a 2-year period is $2,400, but they're only paying around $400 for this TV. So you can see that they've really done the math on their cost per acquisition, $400, and the customer lifetime value, which is $2,400. So they're getting good ROI on their marketing spend. And we can do the same as marketers of software and SaaS. So let me ask, what is your customer lifetime value? I'd like everyone just to reply in the chat window. How many of you are actually tracking this as a key performance indicator right now? So how many people out there are tracking customer lifetime value? Just answer yes or no. I see a lot of no's, a couple yeses coming in. Yeah, it's pretty mixed bag. Well, sometimes this can be a tricky report to get. You have to agree as a company the methodology that you're going to use to track it, and it could involve multiple departments. A lot of no's coming in. Yeah, more no's than yeses, I would say. Thanks, guys. Here's one way of tracking customer lifetime value. You can see we're doing it by quarter, and the customer lifetime value has gone up from, say, $600 to over $2,000 over the course of the year. But what's more important is understanding what is driving that growth. So link it back to the customer life cycle. Is it coming from acquisition campaigns, upsells, cross-sells? Maybe you've launched an upgrade of your software, or maybe it's renewals. Last year's acquisitions become this year's renewals. So it's important to understand what's driving that growth. So let's kind of get into the tactics about how we can maximize customer lifetime value. And we'll start here with upsells. So just a couple definitions of terms, because everyone describes these differently. When I say upsell, I mean at point of purchase. So when we're acquiring a customer, we're replacing a lower price item with a higher price item in the initial order, so commonly known as the bait and switch. How do we compare that with cross-sells? Instead of replacing the product in the cart, cross-sells, you're adding additional items to the initial order. So you're adding a second or a third product in the cart. And how do we compare that with upgrades? So upgrades, we say, is after point of purchase instead of at point of purchase. So you might be adding more expensive items to the account or to the subscription. Often you're replacing a lower priced product for a higher one, say it's to get more features. Or maybe it's a subscription and it's a longer term. So you're upgrading them from a 1-year subscription to a 2-year subscription. So here's the way that we can deliver upsell offers to the customers. An interstitial page on the way to the cart, an overlay on the checkout page, or there's a hybrid upsell which uses a combination of both. So here's what I mean by interstitial. You have a product page on your website, and on the way to the cart or the checkout page, there's an intermediate or interstitial page, which delivers an offer. So here's an example from SEO PowerSuite. You can see here, if you hit the order button, on the way to the cart, you land on this interstitial page. So I've selected SEO PowerSuite Professional, and this is the upsell for SEO PowerSuite Enterprise. They also include a product comparison chart to show you what's included in the Enterprise version that's not in the Pro version. Here's another example from Avira, an antivirus company. So they're upselling in 2 different ways. One is term, so they're giving a discount for a 2-year or a 3-year subscription, but they're also upselling the number of devices you can protect, because you can choose either 1, 3, or 5 devices. Both of these pages are on the way to the shopping cart. Here's another type of upsell strategy, which is called an overlay. And rather than go to an interstitial, you go from a product page direct to the checkout, but the checkout will have a light box or an overlay or a modal window over top of it. So here's an example from Absolute Software. I've placed Logic Standard here in my cart, and I'm being upsold to the Premium Edition. So this is going to replace Standard and actually put Premium in my cart instead. Another example here from Therapeutic Research. This is more of a B2B example. They're, again, upselling on multiple different levels. The first is the plan, so you can choose either the gold or the platinum plan, but also you can choose the term. And again, they're upselling you to a longer term by discounting the 2 or the 3-year subscription. And now we look at the hybrid, which uses a combination of both. So this is an example from AVG, where right on the checkout page, you're choosing either a 1-year or 2-year subscription, and they kind of have some value-added messaging saying, you know, best value if you choose the 2-year to kind of incentivize you to do that. But if you go ahead and stick with the 1-year, as you're filling out the checkout form in the shopping cart, there's an overlay, and it's basically a dynamic offer that's saying you can save X amount of dollars by protecting your device for 2 years, and the call to action is get an extra year. So that's how they're upselling as customers are in the cart. So that's upsells. Now let's take a look at cross-sells. So remember, cross-sells are where we're adding additional products to the cart instead of replacing them. And there's a couple different ways we can deliver these offers. On the checkout page, an overlay on the checkout page, or even post-checkout offers when the initial sale has been completed. So let's start with on the checkout page. So you're going from the product page right to the checkout. And here's an example from Amazon. Amazon is the king of cross-sells. So how many cross-sells do you think are on this page? Start replying just in the chat window and take a guess. Where do you see the cross-sells here? 12, 9, Mihai says 12, Derek says 10. Hey, Derek. Lewis, 8 to 10. Right, so check this out. There are 6 different areas with cross-sells. I haven't actually counted the number of products, but you're right, it's at least 10. So here, whenever you see these types of words, frequently bought together, customers who bought this also bought this, here's a whole bunch of cross-sells over here for protection, warranty, and here's probably a paid ad from another related product. So these are all cross-sells actually on the checkout page. So let's look at an example of how a software company would do this. Here's Absolute's cart, and they actually have a recommended product section. And what's really interesting about this is that they're selling here additional licenses. So this shopper has LoJack standard quantity of 1 in their cart, and Absolute is offering them an additional license at 50% off. So I think this is a great example of how you can use cross-sells even if you only have 1 product. So if you're a company that has 1 sort of flagship product and you don't have other products that you can cross-sell, you can always sell additional licenses at a discount to increase your average order value. Here's an example of cross-sells from AVG. Now check this out. This is their cart page. So at the top here, you're choosing your subscription. And this down below is where you're entering your details. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different cross-sells. So you would think that having all of those cross-sells would kind of distract the shopper and maybe decrease the conversion rate. But they've done all kinds of testing to show that having these cross-sells does not affect their revenue. In fact, it increases their revenue per visitor, which is the main KPI that they're trying to optimize for. So that's cross-sells on the checkout page. What about an overlay on the checkout page? So again, you're going from the product page to the checkout page, and there's a light box or an overlay, similar to what we saw with Upsells. So here's an example from CompuClever, where they have a PC utility software, and as you're checking out, they would also show you an offer to add antivirus to your cart. So here you're just adding that product for $47 to your cart. There's also something really interesting, which is post-sale cross-sells. So here you've actually completed the purchase. You've gone from the product page to the checkout page to the thank you page, and the offers are on the thank you page, either in a light box or an overlay, or some cases in emails as well. So here's an example from AVG. So this is their order confirmation page, the typical thing you'd expect to see. Thank you for your order. Here's your order number. But here up above, they actually have the recommended products. So this is where they're doing their cross-sells. And Avangate has something called a one-click cross-sell, where if the customer clicks buy now, the order is just automatically processed. The shopper doesn't have to return to the cart and enter everything again. So it's kind of like buying something like the one-click purchase on Amazon or on iTunes. Makes for a really good user experience. Here's a different type of cross-sell that I think is really interesting. Bitdefender, rather than cross-selling other products after the cart, they're actually cross-selling their installation, training, and support services. So again, this is a really inventive way of increasing your average order value if you don't have other products to sell. And here, this is an example of how to cross-sell in an order confirmation email. So the customer's purchased a product, and you can see here there's another offer actually embedded in the email. So one way to do it is through text like this. And another option, which might make the offer more visible, is to have a banner ad embedded right in your order confirmation email. It's a great way to cross-sell to your customer base. So that's cross-sells. Let's look at upgrades and downgrades and how we can maximize customer lifetime revenue. So just a reminder, an upgrade is after point of purchase, where you're increasing the price of the product to get more features, or maybe a longer term if you're using a subscription model. And we can contrast this with downgrades. So downgrades is actually a marketing strategy in order to prevent churn, so to stop someone from canceling their order. It's usually delivered by customer support if somebody calls in to cancel, or it might be triggered automatically in the My Account area, depending on the capabilities of your e-commerce provider. So here's how we can deliver upgrade and downgrade offers through email, through in-product messaging, offers in the My Account area, and again, the customer support team. So here's an example of an email offer from Absolute. This is actually delivered to an existing customer, so it's an upgrade offer, and it's offering an extension. So this customer might have a 1-year subscription, and the offer is, say, 50% and add an extra year. So that's a great example of how you can upgrade customers with the same product, but just increase their lifetime value by extending their subscription for a year. Here's an example of in-product messaging. I'm sure you guys all saw this past summer when Windows 10 was upgrading. So this is an example of a modal window that comes up and takes over your screen. A lot of software companies are using these in-product messages now to deliver upgrade offers. Here's an example of a different type of in-product messaging. Rather than the modal window, it's a system tray pop-up. So it kind of rises up from your system tray bar. I'm sure you guys have all seen these. And again, it's delivering that upgrade offer. So this is an offer to extend by adding an extra year at 50% off. Now, Absolute actually offers upgrades the first time a customer logs in as well. So here, they're offering that same 50% off if you extend your subscription an extra year. So you can see there's really multiple touch points, which is key to engaging with your customers and converting at this phase in their life cycle. Once I'm in the customer center, Absolute also shows banners here as well. So you can see it's the in-product messages, the system tray pop-ups, the emails, the banners. They're really doing a great job of having a consistent marketing campaign and multiple touch points. Now let's talk a little bit about downgrades. So say one of your customers wants to cancel their subscription. They go into My Account and they hit the cancel button. So here's where you can have an automated message saying, hey, we'll give you 50% off if you stay with us. So the options here are yes, renew, or no, just unsubscribe. Here's another way that you can deliver this offer. Again, someone's hit the cancel button. Are you sure you want to cancel? Take advantage of a discount to continue using the subscription. So 50% off, you can accept the discount or cancel anyway. And if the customer does cancel, it's a great opportunity to get some feedback as to why. So here we can ask, please share your reason for canceling. You might be able to learn something about how to improve your product. So that is upgrades and downgrades. Let's take a look at renewals as well. So renewals is where the customer can renew their existing license or subscription instead of purchasing a brand new one every year. So it's really different than the perpetual license model that the software industry has really been founded on, and more companies are moving to the subscription model. It has a much higher customer loyalty and lifetime value, and there's really two types of business models within it. There's manual renews or auto-renews. So auto-renewals is where the customer's subscription is automatically renewed and their credit card is charged automatically without the customer having to take action. So typically it's monthly or annual billing. You do have to notify the customer before and after the billing. And one best practice is to allow the customer to disable auto billing without having to cancel their subscription entirely. this we can compare to manual renewals, which is requiring the customer to actually take action and go through the shopping cart in order to renew their product or their service. So typically this is annual or biannual, like a 1, 2, or 3 year. You don't see manual renewals on a monthly basis. It's just too much friction. And it does require nurture campaigns to deliver the offers and convert customers. The results are lower renewal rates and a lower customer lifetime value, but still higher than the perpetual license model. So a great example of kind of like auto-renewal and manual renewal that we all have in our lives is, auto-renewal might be something like Netflix, where it's just renewed every month and your card is charged every month. Manual renewal might be something like, your car insurance, where you actually have, it's an annual plan and you have to go in and take action and purchase it again in order to renew it. So how do we deliver these types of manual renewal offers? There's email, in-product messaging, offers in my account area. The customer support team can also deliver these. And something really cool that I want to talk about is migration campaigns, which is might be a new idea to many of you, but you can implement in your business to grow your revenue. So first we'll look at renewal emails. So it's really important to have a series of renewal emails. One of the most common mistakes that we make as marketers is, we acquire a new customer, say they have a 1-year subscription, and we're kind of radio silent until, a week before their subscription is up. So here, this just shows that 30 days before expiry, we're communicating with the customer, maybe 7 days before expiry, and then after their subscription expires, if they haven't renewed yet, the messaging really changes and we start talking about how to renew after expiry. Also, there's in-product messaging. So again, using those system tray pop-ups, so real-time messaging about subscriptions and also delivering offers. And lastly, renewals in the My Account area. So every time a customer logs into their account, they can renew their they can see a message to renew their license with an offer. Here's another type of example of renewal messages in My Account. This is more banners, again showing 180 days pre-expiry. So let's do the math on that. This is a 1-year subscription, so it's basically 6 months into a 1-year subscription, so only halfway through. Absolute is already messaging the customer to renew early. And then 30 days pre-expiry, and post-expiry again. So you can start to see the consistency of the messaging here. So let's talk about this early renewal campaign idea, because I think it's a best practice that more vendors should follow, and it's been highly successful for Absolute. So again, if you have a business model where there's a 1-year subscription, you don't have to wait until 30 days before or 7 days before you can start messaging your customers. You can target them at any point in the term. So here's an example of early renewal, again, where it might be 6 months in. This is an email that's sent, renew early and save 25%. They also have the in-product messaging and the banners in the customer center. And so, why are they targeting their customers with early renewals? A couple reasons. One is because it's a great way to kind of meet your quarterly numbers, because you can just send out this blast and get a little bit bump in your sales. But secondly, Absolute has really done the math and figured out the value of a manual renew customer versus an auto renew customer. So here's an example of their 2 products, LoJack Standard and LoJack Premium. And you can see that an auto-renew customer is basically worth 3 times the value of a manual renew customer over a 3-year term. So when they did this math and figured this out, they knew that they could afford to heavily discount their auto-renew service in order to migrate more customers from manual renew to auto-renew. So they actually put together a migration campaign. to do just that, and they're pretty transparent about it. You can see here their auto-renew offer, automatic renewal, automatic protection. Save 20% when you turn on auto-renew for your subscription. You know, it talks about kind of taking one thing off your list. Your subscription will never accidentally expire because it's renewed automatically. So customers actually saw a lot of value, not only in the auto-renewal service, but obviously in saving 20% off their subscription. So this is the email that was sent. They also had the in-product messaging and the banners in the customer center as well. So you can see there's really consistent offers and messages and multiple touch points, which is key because we all know that it takes multiple touch points in order to convert. They also had Renew plus Upgrade as a migration strategy. So basically, anyone that was on their standard product that was a manual renew customer was given a free upgrade to premium. So the settings in the shopping cart defaulted to auto-renew. So when someone accepted this offer to get the free premium, they now became an auto-renew customer. Plus, when they renewed their premium 1 year later, it resulted in a higher renewal price point. So it was a win-win. So let's talk about some best practices for auto-renewals, since this is really the way that the whole industry is moving. So we know that with auto-renewals, the key, to this business model is the recurring revenue model. So regardless of whether you're an annual subscription and have annual recurring revenue or a monthly subscription with monthly recurring revenue, the beauty of it is that when you acquire a customer in year 1, you're seeing that revenue contribution in year 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on the length of your average customer lifetime. As opposed to having a customer in year 1 and then having to acquire new ones in year 2, year 3. Of course, we're always focused on acquiring new customers, but in terms of growing your revenue year over year, the recurring revenue model is really the best model to have that reliable recurring revenue. So here's some of the KPIs that we look at in either an ARR, annual recurring revenue, or an MRR, monthly recurring revenue. So you start out with your beginning MRR, and let's say you acquire new customers plus 20%, and you also upgrade some of your existing customers plus 10%. So your MRR growth would be 30%. But then let's say you have 5% of your customers downgrade, and maybe 10% churn out. They cancel their subscription. So that would be 15% churn. So your net increase from your beginning MRR to your ending MRR is 15%. So this is some of the ways that we calculate either your ARR or your MRR. And it's important to use these. You can see that it ties back into the concept of the customer lifecycle as well in terms of acquisitions, upgrades, downgrades, and renewals. Another best practice is to really segment your messaging based on renewal status. So when we have auto-renew customers, of course you want to welcome them to the product or to the service, but then often we just give them a renewal notice, say 30 days before a 1-year subscription, and then confirm it after their credit card is billed. So some companies find that if they are continually messaging their auto-renew customers, it might make the customer think, do I really need this product, and kind of give them an opportunity to consider canceling. So usually communication is a little bit less frequent in an auto-renew or auto-billing model. However, with manual renew, you have to be engaging with your customers to convince them to renew because it's not renewed automatically. So you'd have the same welcome email, but then you might be offering upgrades, early renewals halfway through the subscription, start your renewing messaging, 30 and then 7 days before, and then there's expiry and post-expiry messages. Another best practice is to have a win-back campaign, which could actually apply to both auto-renew as well, where anyone that hasn't renewed in the last 90 days, you would give them like a pretty steep discount, kind of a last chance offer in order to renew their subscription. I like to do that every quarter. Does that mean that you shouldn't ever try and increase the customer lifetime value for your auto-renew customer base? No, of course not, right? There's lots of ways that we can do that as well. Here's an example from Absolute where they offered a free upgrade to their standard customers that were on auto-renew. So they were already on auto-renew, but by giving them a free upgrade to premium, when they auto-renewed again next year, it was a higher price point. So it's basically a way of maximizing the customer lifetime value of auto-renew customers. So I really want to talk about questions that you need to ask your payments provider, because as marketers and on the sales, marketing, e-commerce teams, we're not often the ones that own this relationship. Sometimes it's the finance team, or sometimes even it's the IT team that deals with the commerce provider and the integration. But these questions really give us the ability to meet our revenue targets, and it's often sales and marketing that owns those revenue targets. So quickly, do you use multiple payment gateways? What are renewal and authorization rates? Describe your retry logic. Do you have retry logic? How do you manage expired credit cards? And can customers disable auto-renew without canceling their subscription? And then lastly, does your customer support team offer downgrades for customers that want to cancel? So let's look at each of these really quickly. Do you use multiple payment gateways? So the fact is that authorization rates increase with local payment gateways. So if you're in North America and you're using your credit card, the authorization rate for a North American processor might be higher than one that's in Europe or in Asia. So it's important that your e-commerce vendor optimize with payment processors for each region to increase conversion rates. If they have multiple payment gateways, then they can also use routing logic. So some e-commerce vendors actually have intelligent payment routing and a gateway failover. So what that means is that if a shopper, if you're processing their credit card and it fails, in a microsecond, they just divert that to a second payment gateway and try and authorize the payment again. So there's something called failover retry. And this really has a huge impact on authorization rates and conversion rates, which of course grows your revenue. So here's some specific numbers on single payment gateway versus intelligent payment routing. So you can see in blue, the single payment gateway, let's look at May, had 73% authorization rate, but by using intelligent payment routing, it went up to 91%. Well, that's almost a 20-point spread. That's huge. I mean, for those of us that have revenue targets, who wants to see 20% of their revenue, disappear every month because they weren't using intelligent payment routing with auto-renewals? Keep in mind, these are auto-renewals, so it's customers that intended to renew their subscription. Maybe their credit card was maxed out on the day that it was processed for their auto-renew, and something called passive churn. Active churn is when a customer calls in to cancel or makes the conscious decision to cancel their subscription. Passive churn is when their payment is just not processed due to whatever reason, and their subscription is almost canceled accidentally without them intending it. What are your renewal authorization rates? So when we're talking to commerce vendors, we often ask them about their cart conversion rates in terms of acquisition, but sometimes we don't talk to them about their renewal authorization rates, which are just as important. So your commerce vendor should have transparency and visibility of renewals. This is an example of an actual report that's in the Avangate platform that shows how many auto renewals are eligible. So 5,000. There were 3,000 attempts and 2,300 successful renewals. So your authorization rate that day was 76%, which resulted in $5,300. So it's really important as marketers for us to have access to this data so that we can predict our monthly and annual revenue, but also know how to reach out to those customers that weren't processed so that we can make sure we're avoiding passive churn And maybe they need to give us a different credit card number or update their payment information. Another important question to ask your payments provider is, what type of retry logic do you use? So by retry logic, I mean how many attempts are made to process the transaction. So when someone's subscription is up for renewal, if it doesn't go through that first time, maybe their card is maxed out, maybe their card number has changed because they've been a victim of fraud, maybe their expiry date, like their card is expired. There's all kinds of reasons why their card would not be processed successfully on the first time. How many times does the payments provider attempt to process the payment afterwards? So believe it or not, some only do it once. One try and then they give up, which would have a huge impact on your revenue, obviously. Other payments providers have really sophisticated retry logic. So here's an example of Avangate where they start retrying even a day before the renewal date, and then there's the renewal date, and they can process, 22 hours, 70 hours, 120, 180. So you can see that this is happening not only on different days, but on different times of day, which is really key. Often vendors will process on like the 1st and the 15th of the month because that's when payday is. And sometimes people's cards are maxed out and they clear their cards on payday, which makes a lot of sense. So it's really important to be aware of that. Also, you want to understand what the retry success rate is. So here's an example of an Avangate report where they've had 1,004 auto-renewal retries, so 1,004 retry attempts. 60 were successful renewals. So their retry success rate was 5.98%. So, 6%, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about that 6% of your revenue, every day or every month, just bleeding out the door that, that you're kind of hemorrhaging and you didn't really know about, that makes a huge difference. So that can really impact your ability to meet your sales targets, especially if you're doing, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year. 6% adds up pretty quick. And there's a really fascinating long tail with retry logic. So 96% of retries are successful the first time. Then you can get another 1.5% on the second retry. But even if you go as long as 8 retries, you're still getting successful orders. So make sure that your payments provider is not just trying once or even 2 times. Make sure they do have that really sophisticated retry logic in place. Another question to ask is, how do you manage expired credit cards? So here's a quick snapshot. This is from a couple years ago now, 2014. It shows all of the data breaches, Target, eBay, Neiman Marcus, Home Depot, Staples. So just a question for you guys listening. You can reply via chat. How many of you have been a victim of a credit card breach, like either at a department store or maybe just some kind of random fraud thing where your bank called you up and said your card's been compromised? Yeah, some people saying twice. Yes, yes, yeah. This just happened to me last week, actually. Somebody phoned me up and asked me if I was buying gas in Montreal. My bank did. Multiple times. Yeah, a lot of people are saying yes. Okay. So when that happens, and you usually get like a new credit card in the mail, right? Either a brand new card with a whole new card number, or you at least get like a new expiry date at a bare minimum. So follow-up question, how many of you actually called like all of the merchants that you work with or that you buy services or products from and called them up and said, hey, I have a new credit card number? So, did you call Netflix? Did you call like all of these places that keep your card on file? Right. So somebody said, haha, never. Right. So this is what I'm talking about when I say passive churn, right? Oh, Marianne actually changed all of her auto pays. Good for you, Marianne. We wish all of you were like you. Most of us are totally clueless about this, or we're too busy, or it doesn't even occur to us to do. And it's a major hassle, somebody said. Yep. So again, make sure that your payments provider is using something called an account updater service. So basically what that is so you're the card holder, and your issuer might be the bank, like say Chase Bank. They would have a relationship with different payments processors and different merchants to make sure that when your card is updated, either your card number or your expiry date or your street address, anything like that, that all of the merchants are automatically notified and that those records are updated. So that when your subscription comes up for renewal, say from Netflix, it goes through, your payment goes through. You don't churn out accidentally because you were a victim of fraud, which of course isn't your fault. So your payment provider should be using an account updater service. And thinking about it from a business perspective, for us who are selling software and subscription, what kind of impact does that have? So let's look at updated cards and the impact on increasing authorization rates. So you can see here over 3 months, the number of updated cards actually surpassed the number of authorized cards. And the authorization rate increased by 10 percentage points by using the updated card service. So it's a really key feature for your payments provider to have. Next question is, can customers disable auto-renew, so turn off auto-billing without canceling their subscription entirely? So this is a really important best practice, from a shopper perspective. So here's an example of a customer, Workshare. They make B2B collaboration software for legal and finance. And here you can see right in their cart, it has auto-renewal service, this kind of blue recycling sign, and it's on. But if you click that, you actually get a little pop-up that explains about auto-billing, and there's a checkbox where you can turn it off. So you can turn off auto-billing and still buy the product. Another model is to actually just have auto-billing turned on by default. So you can see here in the terms and conditions, by placing this order, you agree to terms and conditions and auto-renewal. If you click the little tooltip, it says your subscription will be automatically renewed before it expires. You can disable auto-renew after completing your purchase by logging into your account. So this company is actually not allowing customers to turn auto-renew off when they purchase. They have to complete their purchase with auto-renew by default, and they can easily turn it on or turn it off afterwards. This is what it looks like afterwards. You log into your account, and here in billing it says turn auto-renew feature on off. It's currently on. And here I can now disable auto-renew by just clicking this little text link. So again, you're not having to cancel your entire subscription. You can just turn the auto-billing off and renew manually if you want to. Again, it's key to maximizing your customer lifetime value, because if a customer can't turn auto-billing off, they just have to cancel altogether, you're likely to lose that customer. And we all know that the cost of acquiring a new customer is a lot higher than the cost of retaining a customer. So lastly, does your customer support team offer upgrades and downgrades? So when one of your customer calls in to support, whether it's a technical question about a product, or they have a question about their bill, or they have a complaint, your customer support team actually has the highest success rate of offering upgrades and downgrades. And as marketers, we are responsible for giving those offers and those campaigns to the customer support team. So talk to your customer support team, make sure that you've given them offers. And if you're using customer support from a payments provider, like Avangate offers 24/7 customer support for all of their customers, again, you want to make sure that upgrades and downgrades are in place. So upgrades, again, grow customer lifetime value, and downgrades prevent churn. So that's when someone's about to cancel. You can offer them a deal in order to prevent them from canceling altogether. So in summary, let's just look at the key takeaways here. First of all, we want to benchmark and track our customer lifetime value. So it's important to know what it is and then to track it over time. We want to plan campaigns for every phase of the life cycle, so not just acquisition, but also trial activation, upsells, cross-sells, upgrades, and renewals. You can actually have a specific marketing campaign for each of these phases. We want to optimize every micro conversion. So by micro conversion, I mean, are you A/B testing the subject line of your upgrade emails? I mean, you can really get that granular in order to grow your customer lifetime value. I really encourage us to reach customers outside of email. So in-product messages, messages in your My Account area. It does take multiple engagements in addition to email in order to convert a customer. Also, some new concepts that we introduced today are extensions for subscriptions. So you can upgrade a customer to a longer term. Early renewals, so getting those manual renewals happening, halfway through a subscription instead of just the last week of a subscription. And downgrades. So think about how you can apply these strategies to your business, and hopefully you have actionable insights to start working on. And lastly, I'd encourage us all to live the user experience. And here's a great example from Absolute about living the user experience. They actually did something called a wall test, where they mapped out every single message to their customers throughout the entire life cycle. So you can see here, first there's the welcome campaign when they acquire a new customer. There's upgrade and migration campaigns, renewals. So this is the renewal campaign, obviously, for manual renewal customers. And then win-backs. How do they try and capture people that are churning out? So you can first of all, ensure that you're having consistent communication with your customers throughout the life cycle. You can identify gaps where you're maybe not communicating with them, but also it's a great way to make sure that all of your branding and your messaging and everything is consistent. So let's continue the conversation. We've covered a lot today, but there's a lot of resources on the Avangate blog and also some great white papers and ebooks available on best practices, on acquisition, and also white papers specifically for software and SaaS companies. You can also just connect with us on social media. Okay, so I see a lot of questions coming in. Jen, do you want to pick a couple questions that we should answer?
Yes, I'll go ahead and start. And thank you so much for covering all that information. What great insights you've provided all of us today on CLV. So Derek has asked, does Avangate have or have plans to add the ability to identify customers with expiring credit cards and proactively communicate with those customers to update their details ahead of future billings?
Okay, that's a good question for Radu. Radu, are you on?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Perfect. So to answer the question, the short answer would be yes, Avangate already offers this capability, meaning that we identify all expired cards or that are about to expire, and we send email notifications basically to that customers, inviting them to log in into their secure My Account area and update the card information that we have on file.
Wonderful. Does the ability to upgrade or downgrade a customer exist without the customer taking action, going through a shopping cart process, or can a support staff bill using credit card on file?
I'm going to take from that one, Shannon, if you don't mind as well. Avangate's current capabilities offers two options of implementation. One be via APIs. We have a full set of APIs covering REST, SOAP, and JSON RPC, and you as a merchant can implement that type of experience directly into your help desk, or using the Avangate control panel directly, your customer representatives could perform upgrades using the credit card that Avangate stored on file as well.
Okay. So Shannon, this next one I believe is directed at you. We're being asked, what is MMR, monthly recurring revenue? How is it defined? How do you calculate that number?
Sure, yeah. So your monthly recurring revenue is based on your renewal. So if you're in a subscription model, your payments platform, like for example, Avangate actually has a report that tells you how many subscriptions are eligible for renewal and what the average renewal rate is, and then it actually predicts your monthly recurring revenue or your annual recurring revenue, depending on what type of model you're using. So, for example, if you had 100 subscriptions that were about to expire and your auto renewal rate was 60%, then the platform would actually do the math and say, okay, you can expect, $10,000 this month based on the number of subscriptions and your auto renewal rates. So it's a great way in order to kind of track your recurring revenue every month. And there's all kinds of reports like waterfall reports and things like that available in the Avangate platform that do those calculations for you.
Okay, so that leads me to our next question. For auto-renewing subscription, what's the average retention rate from first year to second year for those annual subscriptions? I know you just mentioned there's a lot of reports, but what are you finding the trend is? Is there a specific percentage that you can give to all of us?
Yeah, so across the Avangate platform, like our 4,000 customers, the average auto renewal rate is about 62%. And you can compare that to the manual renewal rate. It's about 26%, so you can see the difference there. Some of our customers have even higher auto renewal rates. So I know Absolute, their auto renewal rate year over year over year is actually pretty consistent. So they're from year one, it might be 60 or 65%, even maybe a little bit higher to 70%. And then the second term, so somebody renews again a second year, it's still around 60%. And then a third year, it can even be as high as 50%. So they can calculate their customer lifetime value over 3 years because somebody that purchased a 1-year subscription renews, at least 3 times for a total of 3 years.
Okay.
If I just may add something on top of that, Shannon, it also depends on exactly on the things that you've added during the presentation. Is there any type of churn fighting implemented into the My Account of the customer? Is there any type of offer displayed while he wants to cancel? Because other customers as well can go up to, let's say, 95% even on a monthly basis, or for annual up to 8% even. It all depends on the quality of your service, but also on the churn prevention techniques that Shannon explained during the webinar that you are implementing it.
Okay. So I think you kind of answered this next question from Lewis. Will the renewal principles work on 3-year contract subscriptions? And I know you were just discussing a little bit about what you're seeing in that 3-year term. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit further?
Yeah, sure. Some of our customers actually offer like a 3-year subscription. So instead of purchasing like a 1-year subscription, you would purchase a 3-year from the beginning, which means that the renewal isn't up for 3 years. So I think that's how I'm interpreting your question, Lewis. And that's been a very successful model. Or conversely, if you were asking, like if someone purchases a 1-year subscription, will they renew multiple times, like for a second year and a third year? And the answer there is yes as well. We have lots of case studies. I mentioned Absolute is one customer, but there's others as well that are seeing like quite high renewal rates year after year in both a 1-year model and a 2 or a 3-year model.
My final question that we'll ask for today, to be respectful of everyone's time as we're nearing the top of the hour here, somebody brought up, do you have a monthly notification for a monthly subscription? Does something get sent out to the subscriber in advance of the renewal? The example was given Netflix. Is that something that you think is kind of should be performed by anyone offering a monthly subscription, or yearly or biannually, quarterly? Do you think that's something that should be automatically built in?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a best practice to notify your customer certainly after they've been billed, for sure. and many also, many of our vendors, and our platform is set up that an automated message can go before the subscription is about to expire as well. And so those are all settings in the Avangate platform, and you can choose the date, like either 7 days before, 15 days before, 3 days before, whichever you'd like. We see definitely monthly subscription, people are communicating with their customers less frequently just because it creates a lot of friction. I have Netflix. I don't think I've ever received an email from Netflix telling me that my credit card's been billed. It just happens now. But in the software and SaaS space, it's a little bit different. So as a best practice, people are confirming when their customers' credit cards have been billed.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us for the webinar today. Shannon, thank you so much for your time, and Radu, thank you so much for answering the technical questions that came across. We're grateful for Avangate and allowing SIIA to steal you today for this hour so we can talk to all of our members about CLV and what a great importance it is in our community. So thank you, and if you have any other questions, you can submit those to us via email, and we will get a return response. Thank you all.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Jennifer. We appreciate you having us on, and yes, please continue to send us questions. We're happy to answer them